You know, I was trying to think of a funny intro for this video, but I can't really think of any. Happy New Year, everybody. I know it's been a couple days, but technically it's not even the new year for me because I'm recording this last year. I haven't recorded videos to edit and release for this channel in like 2, maybe 3 weeks. Anybody who has watched my Die Hard movie recommendation review and watched all the way through knows kind of what I'm going through in the last year. So I haven't really had the energy to put towards any recordings of any new content. So what am I going to be talking about today is probably the question that is on your mind. So obviously, depending on how things go with my job search,
that was pretty good.
I don't know how much time I'm going to have to record videos in the future, and hopefully the week that I'm recording this video on August 25th, 2024 kind of turns things around for me, but I kind of wanted this new Idearena sort of series theme for my YouTube channel to kind of carry over something I did. I'm sure if you've been watching my videos at all for any length of time, you know that I've covered extensively the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee project, and I made a number of Airstrike suggestion videos for that, but I kind of want to wipe that away. I'm sort of grandfathering in the videos where I went over those kind of Airstrike ideas. As I said in those videos long ago, I doubt that project will even kind of broach that subject, so the Idearena badge is kind of what I'm going to do going forward to cover that and other similar idea-based things. But I wanted to kind of go back to the whole concept of airstrikes within a Godzilla arena fighter fighting game and kind of just review the various ideas that I had since those original airstrike videos. Now, if you haven't watched those videos, I highly recommend them. My editing style has changed rather significantly, I say for the better, and I'm trying to swear less because I don't know the age demographic that is finding these videos, so I'm trying to be friendly towards the younger audience who might like Godzilla and might find my videos entertaining. But those ideas are pretty good, and I will go over them briefly in this video, but it's probably worth your time to also check out many of those old videos. I do have multiple playlists that contain those videos on my YouTube channel, so all 5 of you that watch this can check that out. But anyway, I really like the idea of the kind of assist character. It was done as the Airstrikes in the Atari Pipeworks Godzilla game trilogy, but you know, it's assist trophies in Super Smash Bros. I'm sure there have been other series that have done this. It's not a particularly new concept, but I personally really like the idea of the Godzilla-focused arena fighter fighting game, which kind of differentiates me from a lot of Godzilla fans, especially the ones that are younger than me, because many of them want a free roam, full world exploration, GTA-style Godzilla game. And I guess I'll just say it here, I really don't think that's ever gonna happen. First off, the general audiences pretty much just completely associate kaiju and giant monsters with beating the hell out of each other. What does that sound like? Oh yeah, a fighting game. But also, I mean, have you people been at all cognizant of how long it has taken for Grand Theft Auto 6 to be developed, let alone announced in the first place? I know there are some people who have done some really cool mods for like Grand Theft Auto 4 to get like Kiryu workable / playable in that game. That was happening when I was like a preteen / teenager. I remember there was like a forum topic on the Toho Kingdom forums that I would follow that was about that. But I just think giant monsters as a concept are at their best when they're just wailing on each other in competitive party fighting games. And I think Godzilla Save the Earth, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, and Godzilla Unleashed did that the best. And considering that the Airstrike system was the way that those games did it, or at the very least the way that Save the Earth did it, means I think it's a good blueprint for how to proceed with the concept in future Godzilla arena fighters. Although it must be noted that Godzilla Unleashed did not have airstrikes, but that game's development was, yeah, it was
Trouble.
So let me just get to it. You guys know I use Super Smash Bros. Roster Maker by Jakor rather frequently. I think it's a good tool. So let me just pull it up. So since we're here, I might as well talk about how the Pipeworks Atari trilogy handled the Airstrike situation. In Destroy All Monsters Melee, Mothra was not playable, but there was a Mothra Airstrike power-up. And as far as I can recall, she was basically just Batra from Godzilla Save the Earth. She just appears, once you grab the power-up, she does some damage. If the opponent uses their beam weapon to damage her, she kind of flies away. But this was just the groundwork. She was the original, you know, the OG Airstrike power-up. Now, it wasn't technically an Airstrike, but the Showa Headorah in its flying form would randomly appear on any of the game's stages with no power-up required. It was just random spawns. And what Headorah did was, while it flew around, it would just kind of leave like a noxious, toxic gas cloud, and the energy recovery of the monsters in the fight would stop completely. I'll be 100% honest, I did beat Destroy All Monsters Melee once, because you have the GameCube copy. You can even see the $20 tag on it. I got it at like a bargain farmer's market, I think. I have a GameCube back on that TV back there, but I honestly do not ever remember getting a Headorah spawn. Or maybe I did and I just don't remember it because it had such a negligible impact on the fight. But, you know, next we got Godzilla Save the Earth, and that was where the Airstrike power-up was formally introduced. Now, you'll note, this is a fan-made redesign of the icon made by yours truly. In the game itself, it was the Atari symbol, but in the process of doing the videos for the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee project videos, I thought I'd just make like a generic icon that would fill in for the Airstrikes. Like I said, Mothra was basically the proto-Batra Airstrike, because Batra literally just flies around and like shoots a beam of energy at your opponent. Airstrikes were never really ultra dramatically important to the outcome of any fight that they were in. They were just power-ups, a lot like the assist trophies in Smash. You know, a lot of times they were just like neat little references. They'd cause a little bit of mayhem. They'd be kind of cool. It made it more fun. Like I said, it was a party fighting game, and the Atari Pipeworks Godzilla games just were that, but with kaiju. I mean, there's a reason that they were astonishingly popular with people who were not into Godzilla, and I've heard in a number of YouTube videos over the past month that those games were the reason people got into Godzilla. So the fact that the Airstrikes weren't like super dramatic tide-turning parts of the game isn't a bad thing. Although the Super X3 was the other Airstrike that was in Godzilla Save the Earth, and I would say it was more impactful. Whenever I got an Airstrike power-up in the game, I was more excited to get the Super X3 because of its freeze blast missiles than Batra, who just kind of flew around and there was an energy beam and it did negligible damage. Super X3 caused the opponents to freeze in place.
Freeze.
And that would often give you the opportunity to wail on them a little bit better. Do more damage. Which is why it's a shame that those were the only two airstrikes in Godzilla Save the Earth. They didn't do any more with that concept, even though the door is like wide open, as this video will show. You'll note in the next row, I have the Star Falcon and the Super X3, and you're like, wait a minute, where are those from? As of the recording of this video, those are the only airstrikes that are present in the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee mod. Godzilla Unleashed Wii or PlayStation 2 did not have airstrikes, and we're not even going to talk about Double Smash because that game wasn't even built with the same framework in mind as those two games. But yeah, in Godzilla Save the Earth Melee, the Star Falcon replaces Batra, and I believe I noted that in one of my mega old ancient videos talking about Save the Earth Melee. And it keeps Super X3, which, like like I said, was the better of the two airstrikes in Godzilla Save the Earth. As I said, this video is technically being recorded last year on August 25th, so they might add more airstrikes in future presentations and stuff, especially since I made all those videos, so there might have been some reaction by the dev team, I don't know. I doubt it, but you never know. But I want to kind of go over all the ideas that I have if you were to make a new Godzilla arena fighter, or if somehow Save the Earth Melee decided they wanted to add in more airstrikes, which I doubt they will, but I figured I'd talk about it because I thought maybe it would be a good place to kind of corral all the stuff I've already come up with, kind of grandfather those ideas into this new format. But also I had a few ideas after I kind of finished recording all of the Monster Manual videos, and I had that epiphany of maybe I shouldn't tie this to the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee horse. So the question mark has Batra Imago underneath it. Here's the thing, my personal idea for what they could replace Batra with instead of the Star Falcon would be the Super X2 from Godzilla vs. Biollante, particularly because when Godzilla blasts it with atomic breath, it can reflect his atomic breath back as a green beam, as seen in the following clip. And the reason I suggest the Super X2 is because we already have the Super X3, and I'm sure you can probably see I have the Super X on here as well, although it is miscolored. Now, the easy way out to this would just to have the Star Falcon as it will be in Godzilla Save the Earth Melee, but I still wanted to kind of include Save the Earth Melee in this discussion, because if Save the Earth Melee does what I hope or think it might do, having Mogera kind of have the Land Mogera Star Falcon split mechanic, I was like, well, what would happen to the Star Falcon airstrike at that point? So I personally would probably just go with the Super X2, because that's probably not going to be playable in Godzilla Save the Earth Melee or really any future new Godzilla fighting game. But I hear you, audience. You're like, but the green beam only got shot out when Godzilla shot his atomic breath into it, so why would it have a green beam of energy that it would shoot at you or your opponent if you don't shoot a beam weapon into it? I think this is a case where ludonarrative dissonance is fine, because I mean really it would just need to do the same thing the Batra airstrike power-up did in Godzilla Save the Earth. You could always just write it off as saying that they retrofitted the Super X2 with like a nuclear engine or something, and they added a laser beam to it. Frickin' laser beam! That just so happens to come out of the same area as the atomic breath mirror shield. Think of something. I mean, does anyone really care that much? I would personally just be happy to see it in the game. I'll be honest, I watched a YouTube video where someone was playing as Godzilla 2014 versus Super X, Super X2, and Super X3 all at the same time.
Second squad, begin your assault.
And honestly, aside from the Super X1, it's a pretty darn forgettable airstrike. But if you make it do what Batra did, I mean, at least it's something. After that is Super X3. I think Super X3 is kind of the model airstrike assist for a Godzilla arena fighter. It was fine the way it was. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, now for a speed run of all the different concepts that I had across all those old videos, which I highly recommend you watch because I go into more detail about all of them. You'll notice that I have Pokemon and other airstrikes from the Godzilla Pipeworks trilogy underneath all of these different entities. And that's because that's kind of the shorthand for what they do. The Dimension Tide, I think it's kind of like Snorlax in Super Smash Bros. It locks onto you, you see a silhouette, a giant black hole comes down from outside of the arena and does a massive amount of damage to the opponent. But if they're smart, they can maneuver maneuver around it and get away from it. It isn't a death sentence is what I'm saying by that. That was the first video I did, and honestly I think it's kind of a pretty good concept. Giant Condor. Kind of a stupid one, but Latias and Latios are underneath it because I was envisioning something similar to how Latias and Latios work in, say, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I think they came back in 4, right? That one, again, is kind of stupid. It's not really like a particularly groundbreaking idea. In fact, none of these concepts really were, which is probably why the videos didn't get any views. The next one, the Devil. The Devil has never really officially appeared in anything Godzilla related, but Godzilla vs. the Devil was a film concept, one that has been sorta kinda memed by the fan base. But Godzilla in Hell was also a thing. I personally think that it would have been a decent concept for a assist trophy sort of character in a Godzilla arena fighter. Make it work like Entei does in Brawl and all the other Smash games that Entei appears in. As you can see, I have a summoning circle underneath Entei because that was kind of what I envisioned it being like. So the next one I have here is Godzuki. Again, this was one of those concepts, and I originally did it within the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee kind of project context. You could probably replace Godzuki with Super X1 and still have the idea mostly work. I rewatched some of the scenes in Godzilla 1985 / Return of Godzilla to kind of get a general idea of how the Super X could maybe work as an airstrike in this 3D Godzilla arena fighter setting. Based on how I described Godzuki in that original video, Super X might work as a replacement if you go the sort of stun cannon route, because Super X shot knockout missiles into Godzilla's mouth in that movie. But I guess this is where kind of untethering from the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee project might actually help, because Super X knocked Godzilla out, like, unconscious. So that sounds more like a stun kind of a thing, whereas my idea for Godzuki in Save the Earth Melee was kind of that was kind of a backup. Only if you could not get the kind of hand cramping, stub toe animations to work on all of the characters. The Griffon is just Electrode, and yes, I got the Pokemon wrong in the original video. My buddy James from Fonderland Studios pointed that out, and I appreciate that he did point it out, but that one's pretty simple. Plane fly in, plane go boom. So this is the airstrike concept that actually kind of motivated me to do this video in the first place, aside from my boredom tonight. Everyone who's watched any of the videos on this channel knows that I'm not exactly the biggest fan of the Mutos, with the sole exception of the Showa design that someone came up with, or the Godzilla Neo design by Matt Frank, the Kaiju Samurai. But I was thinking about it, I was like, is there any way to get the Headorah airstrike from Destroy All Monsters Melee back into the series? And I remembered, I was like, wait a minute, didn't the Mutos have some really dumb ability that carries next to no strategic importance to a Kaiju fight unless it's like a mech? And then I remembered, I was like, oh wait a minute, yeah, the Mutos had EMP, like electromagnetic disturbance powers for some reason, aside from them being awful kaiju. And I was like, oh wait a minute, the male Muto can fly, so that makes it airstrike worthy. And then I was like, but if you make Headorah playable in something, Headorah obviously can't appear as both an airstrike and a separate fighter, but no one wants the male Muto to be playable. They want the female Muto to be playable, because the female Muto was the cool one, aside from the Muto Prime. So that made me realize, I was like, oh wait a minute, you could just have the male Muto kind of sub in for Headorah with the same sort of energy interference kind of thing that Headorah had in Destroy All Monsters Melee. Except I wouldn't have it be both players affected by that, obviously, because if it was an airstrike, it wouldn't really make sense to have it harm you as a consequence. I would just have it so that the other player cannot recover energy. Now that I think about that though, I wonder how that would interact with Megaguirus or Space Godzilla. Godzilla. That's actually an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about that until just now. And last but not least, I have Super X, because it would be really weird if you had Super X2 and Super X3 as Airstrikes, but for some reason Super X1 was just conspicuously absent. And like I said a minute or two ago, Super X1, 2, and 3 are all adversaries that you can face in Godzilla for the PS4, which I also have. I managed to get this for $25. How lucky was I? I feel like if you got a Super X2 and or a Super X3 Airstrike, you might as well do all of them. And the Super X one, I didn't really have a very original or unique or game-changing idea for how you could do a Super X Airstrike. I would basically just take the homing missiles that Kiryu and Mechagodzilla 2 have in Godzilla Save the Earth proper and just attach that to an airstrike. Oh, and I forgot the fire dragon. Skipped right past it. Flew right by it. Yeah, I just think that one could be Super X3 with lingering burn damage. For some reason, that video got a lot of views in comparison to the other ones. I have no idea why, but yeah, those are all the ideas that I have for airstrike summons in a Godzilla arena fighter. I do also want to say, if you look at the top, I wonder if we'll ever see the Eclair, Haryu, and or Rumbling from Godzilla Final Wars show up in a video game. Because if you get the Gotengo working as a sort of entity in the game, I mean, they're basically just that. The only difference is they do not have drills on the front. Technically, the Gotengo was present in Godzilla Unleashed for the Wii as a boss, although that was named the Atragon. But none of the other ones have appeared in anything since Godzilla Final Wars, so they're probably pretty much forgotten. If you wanted to include any of them, you're probably best off just doing the Gotengo. And if you didn't want to just do the Gotengo, you could do the Gotengo with Manda wrapped around it, which would be kind of cool. Like, if Godzilla Save the Earth Melee did Gotengo as an airstrike, I could see maybe having Manda be wrapped around it. Even outside of that specific project, I really don't expect to see Manda playable in a 3D Godzilla arena fighter. I know there's some 2D Godzilla fan game fighter where Manda is a playable character, but it's also a sprite-based fighting game, so I feel like that project can kind of get away with a lot more in that regard than anything 3D could. Which, maybe this is a little late to say it, but that's kind of the mindset and system I'm kind of thinking of this stuff in, is a 3D arena fighter. But yeah, those are all of my ideas for what I would do with summons / assists / airstrikes in a Godzilla 3D arena fighter. As I said in all those old videos that are particularly in regards to Godzilla Save the Earth Melee, I really like the airstrikes. In fact, I think this was one of the first things I asked of that project. If you go back to my Godzilla Unleashed Double Smash skins discussion for Godzilla Save the Earth Melee, I mentioned that in the Gotengo section. But I would just like to see this kind of thing brought back if they ever did a brand new Godzilla arena fighting game. Just because there aren't many, but I do feel like there are certain military vehicles and monsters that will never show up in any other Godzilla video game media unless the summon airstrike sort of system is in place. And, you know, maybe I'm like the outlier. Maybe I'm like the only person that wants that kind of thing in a Godzilla fighting game. But I loved Smash, and I played it for years, both casually and competitively. So I thought it was worth the time to make a YouTube video about it. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think. I don't know how long this video was, but hey, I mean, it's not like I have anything else to do right now. If there are any ideas that I have not thought of, drop them in the comments. I really just like the general idea that is discussion of Godzilla ideas for video games. I will probably never be involved in the development of a Godzilla Godzilla fighting game, but as Goji Rex himself stated in the Goji Fan 93 interview pertaining to Godzilla Save the Earth Melee, if, like, for example, the Gigabash development team got these ideas from me, what the hell harm is it gonna do? It just sounds like more fun. If anything, it would make me incredibly happy and might compel me to purchase a product that was inspired by my videos, which won't happen, but it would be neat. Drop a like, subscribe if you want to make my brain happy by injecting it with dopamine by having number go up, and until next time, guys, catch you on the flip-flop.
I just want to be happy.